Hey guys, OCP Communications, welcome to my review / retrospective of RoboCop 2. Yeah, this is the Laserdisc, because I do have the film, but it's on Blu-ray, and it's like in the trilogy box set, and you know, I just thought it'd be better to show this. And this is actually what I watched it on again, was on this Laserdisc. It actually looked pretty good quality for Laserdisc. This is actually, I think, one of the last Laserdiscs that were made. Yeah, it was made in '98, so yeah, it was one of the last Laserdiscs. One of the few last Laserdiscs that were produced was for RoboCop 2. As you can also see, I have RoboCop 2 poster in the background, so you can already see that I'm a fan of this movie. This is a film that I do not understand the hate it gets. Most of the criticisms I hear, I can understand some of them, like the whole idea that it might not be as good of a drama, it doesn't have as much human aspects to it, it's not as good as the first film. Yeah, I'll give it that. But criticism I heard from critics, that even professionally paid critics who reviewed this film back when it came out in 1990, like crap, like it's too violent, or Roger Ebert getting on his soapbox again saying that it's just morally terrible to have a kid be a killer, and that was just too much for me, and it was too uneven, and blah 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 blah, and the kid just threw it over the top. I'm just like, just give me a break with the whole kids getting upset, getting your panties in a knot over a movie where kids are doing violent things and swearing like sailors. Because, newsflash, some kids actually do violent things and swear like sailors. You know, in real life, kids aren't like fucking goody-goody two-shoes, adamant motherfuckers. Some kids are really, they're just about as big of an assholes as adults are. So, I've seen kids like that. I've known kids that swear like sailors. I've seen kids like that. And right now, there actually are games that have kids who are selling drugs and doing, you know, violent crimes and shit. It's not out of the box. It's not too far-fetched. And plus, it also shows that, once again, in this future, a little bit of satire, it's gotten so out of hand that now kids are drug dealers. It's an insane, you know, it's a crazy idea. It's a mad world in RoboCop 2, in the future of RoboCop 2. And I also love the fact that, yeah, it has kids doing violent things and doing things that you don't see normally kids do in movies. Because this isn't a movie for kids! So when hearing people criticize this movie and bitching about it, what examples is this set for our children who are watching this movie? It's not made for fucking kids in the first place. And excuse me if I'm going, you know, getting a little bit heated here, is because I feel really strongly about this movie, that it is one of the most underrated movies of all time, especially as a sequel. It is right up there with Predator 2 as one of the most overlooked, underrated, and for some reason disrespected and despised movies that I have ever seen. I don't understand what is so bad about this movie. What is worthy of a 5.6, literally 10 points lower than the remake. Or 11. 11 points lower than the RoboCop remake. It's a piece of shit compared to this movie. That movie's a flaming bag of dog shit compared to RoboCop 2. And I've heard even RoboCop fans, I've seen on fan forums and things, and that's fine. To each their own. People are entitled to their different opinion. But saying that the remake and its issues reminded them of RoboCop 2 and how disappointing and bad that was, I don't get how you can be disappointed by this movie as a fan of the first movie. You get RoboCop in another RoboCop movie, and he's kicking ass, taking names, and fights another RoboCop. So he meets his match. What more could you ask for? I understand the human aspects weren't fleshed out as much in this film. It relied more on action. It's more of an action movie than it is a sci-fi drama, you know, like the first movie was. But I've heard people say that the satire isn't there. I'm like, what? The satire isn't there? Really? The satire is in this movie, with the commercials and the media break segments are just as funny as they were in the first film. And the satire's still here, with stuff with the kids doing, you know, Kids robbing stores. That's some crazy shit. So the satire is still evident in this movie, even in the beginning of the movie, where you have this guy who is trying to rob, he robs some guy, robs some poor woman or whatever, and then he gets his ass mugged by a couple hookers who just mug his ass. So criminals mug each other so that the hookers can get some money to get some more drugs. That's some good satire right there. And the movie opens up with a Magnavolt segment with Bruce Glover, which is a really fun commercial parody. So I don't understand the criticism saying that it doesn't have any satire. What? There's plenty of satire to be found in RoboCop 2. If you want to point to there's no satire, let's look at RoboCop the remake, and let's look at RoboCop 3 as an example. Speaking of RoboCop 3, I don't know how anybody could say that RoboCop 3 is better than RoboCop 2. And critics back in the day actually said that. There was somebody on the back of the Laserdisc for RoboCop 3, and on the VHS it says, best RoboCop ever. You're fucking right. More on that movie later. But with RoboCop 2, forgive me if this review is a little bit all over the place. It's because I feel really passionate about this movie. I feel like I have to get up, and go right up the bat for this film and defend this movie. Because the hate it gets is unreal to me. It's really unreal to me. I don't get it. I don't think I ever will get it. So, anyway. The film was made in pretty much produced and, filmed in 1989. It was released in 1990. It's directed by Irvin Kershner, and this is the last film he did before he retired. And Irvin Kershner is well known, probably most well known for Empire Strikes Back. That's my favorite Star Wars movie. And in a way, his RoboCop 2 is like the Empire Strikes Back for the RoboCop franchise. It's darker, its tone is darker, it's more, like I said, it's more of a darker tone. It takes more chances. Some people were turned off by that. That's a viable criticism. If you found the tone was off-putting, cool. I've heard that criticism before. That's understandable. But I don't think the tone in the first film was all light and cheery either. So I think the tone in this one was just about as close to as dark and upsetting as the first film was. I didn't really notice anything different in terms of the tone. Like, this one was all really, really super dark compared to the first movie, but it was a little bit darker. I'll give it that. It was a little bit darker in tone. Which is funny because you have the score by Leonard Rosenman, which is very uplifting and upbeat and cheery, and you have these really kind of dark moments in this film. And that's why this film definitely needed Basil Polidoros' score. If there's one thing I agree with a lot of people, and people universally agree on the problem with this movie, and one of the problems is definitely the score. Leonard Rosenman, he does an okay job, but it's nowhere near as multi-layered and multifaceted, and doesn't even have as much emotion as Polidoros' score. Polidoros' score in the first film is every bit of as much of a character as RoboCop was, himself. So to have that score missing does really hurt the film. Because the score as it is not terrible. I don't hate it like some people do. I think it's alright. But it definitely is more of a superhero type score. And it definitely, in my opinion, belonged to RoboCop 3. It's right at home with RoboCop 3. Because RoboCop 3 is basically turning RoboCop into a superhero. RoboCop 2 is still dark enough, still has an edge. It should have had Polidoros' score. In fact, switch the two. RoboCop 3's score by Basil Polidoros should be in RoboCop 2, and RoboCop 2's score by Leonard Rosenman should be in RoboCop 3. That way it pleases both people, it works. Then his score would work perfectly. With the choir in the background going, RoboCop! That would work perfectly for RoboCop 3. But for RoboCop 2, not so much. But I don't hate the score. I can deal with it. It's not ear-bleedingly awful or anything like that. But yeah, it's the final film of Irvin Kershner. And I think he did a great job. I think he did a fantastic job with the directing of this movie. He was a good choice to take over the reins of Paul Verhoeven. Verhoeven wanted and expressed interest on doing RoboCop 2, but, you know, the production process took too long, and he signed on to do Total Recall, and by the time that this movie was being made, he was doing Total Recall, so we couldn't do it. Part of me thinks that maybe Orion should have waited till Verhoeven was available, so then he could do RoboCop 2, like in '91 or something. But when you look into Orion's financial problems by the time this movie came out, you could tell that they were really, honestly, they were getting close to being bankrupt already by the time this movie came out. So they were probably trying to rush it anyway. We need to get this movie out. We can't afford to wait, because lo and behold, by the time RoboCop 3 came out, they were almost out of business. They're hanging on by a thread, but barely. So yeah. But it would have been interesting to see what Verhoeven would have done with the sequel. And right off the bat, too, the sequel was always going to be, you know, a potential letdown or not be as good as the first movie, because that's usually the case with a lot of sequels. This is another one of those sequels. It's not as good as the first movie, but it's still a good sequel. It's not a terrible film. I don't see how you can look at this movie and be like, that movie sucked. Yeah, with that awesome rope fight at the end with RoboCop and RoboCane, man, that was so terrible. Oh, you know that scene where he shot the dude in the eye through the scope of his sniper rifle. Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah, this movie is awful. I don't see how you could really say that about this movie. Disjointed at points, sure. I can see some arguments for that. But when you read and you look at Frank Miller's original script, you can tell that they had a problem right from the get-go. They greenlit that script. They realized they cannot film this script. It's unfilmable. We can't do it. We don't have enough money to do it. $35 million is not going to cover what this script wants to do. So this script needed massive rewrites right from the beginning. So the film was getting, you know, rearranged and rewritten by the point probably during filming. So the fact that the film turned out to be competent and pretty damn good, in my opinion, is really, really shocking and honestly impressive. That it had all those issues. It could have easily been another Alien 3. But no, it wasn't. Because as convoluted and crazy as Frank Miller's original script was for RoboCop 2, it wasn't nearly as stupid as the original script for Alien 3 that was greenlit that dealt with a wooden planet. Yeah, a wooden planet with monks and shit. So, it wasn't nearly that stupid. That far-fetched. Now, so Frank Miller did the original screenplay. Waylon Green came in and retooled it almost completely. There's a few things here and there that are still retained from Frank Miller's script, but not a lot, because it was honestly unfilmable. It was a film that would not be... It would turn off audiences right off the bat. It would be a movie, and also his script, if you want to talk about a film that would be devoid of humor and light touches or anything that the original film had, that script is definitely one of them. It had no satire, it had nothing like that. It was definitely a lot more of an action movie. And that's pretty much what this film is. It's more of an action film than a straightforward science fiction drama revenge picture like the first film was. And that turned off some people. And then, like, that's fine with me. Okay, it's fine. And those are valid criticisms. But people saying it's too violent, fuck that. I got a middle finger for you. Fuck off. Seriously, that's not a valid criticism. I don't care how bad I sound. It's not a valid criticism to say that this movie is crappy and lame to you because it's too violent. The movie was fucking ultra violent too. It would have gotten an X rating originally. It got an X rating originally when it was brought to the MPAA. Don't give me that shit that it's too violent. So anyway, Peter Weller returns as Alex Murphy, RoboCop. Also, the original director for this film was actually Tim Hunter, who directed River's Edge with Keanu Reeves. This is a really good drama, drama thriller, did with like teenagers and murder and all this kind of interesting stuff. It was a really well done movie from the late 80s. But he had disagreements with the script and disagreements with the way the movie was the approach that the producers and the studio was going to take with the film, so he dropped out. So Kershner was pretty much a last-minute replacement, and in that respect, he did a good job. For a last-minute replacement, doing his last film, he turned in a really good movie, in my opinion. Really great-looking movie, really good-looking shots. The action sequences are well shot. The sequences that need to be well lit and well shown are well done. The sequences that need to have emotion are well done, especially the scene where Murphy, has to tell his wife that he's dead. Really well shot sequence, really well done. And pretty much he turned in a really great movie. I still think RoboCop 2 is a great movie. Not as great as the first movie, but still a great movie in its own right. And so yeah, Peter Weller returns as RoboCop. Nancy Allen comes back as Lewis. And it's just as many scenes as she had in the first movie. She didn't have a lot of character development in the first movie either, and it's pretty much the same sort of thing in this movie. I don't understand some people upset that Lewis didn't... Yeah, Lewis could have had a little bit more character development, I could say that, but for what she got in this movie, it's fine enough with me. Dan O'Hurley returns as the old man. That's one problem I also have with this movie. He was a sweet, kind old man, like Dick Jones said in the first film. He didn't appear like he was really evil at all. And in the second movie, it's the complete opposite. He's like cartoonishly evil in this. And it's like the producers, the writers saw the 80s cartoon by Marvel and thought, yeah, that's the old man. Not the old man in the first movie. That's who the old man is. Cartoon bad guy. I have a problem with that. The old man with the whole behave yourselves. The old man was way, way, way over the top, and with his evil scheming and his evil plans to make a better America. It was like the old man was the complete opposite of what he was in the first movie. I don't understand. Was that Frank Miller? Was it Waylon Green? I don't know what. But that didn't make any sense for a complete character shift from sweet, kind old man to senile old bastard. I didn't get that. I did not understand that. How OCP goes from, yeah, we want money, blah, 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 but we have a benevolent chairman who honestly has his heart in the right place, even though basically all he wants is money, but he still has a good heart, and he wants to do what's best for Detroit. And it's Dick Jones who wants to do the worst for it. But in this film, RoboCop 2, it's like, whatever the cost, I need to get Delta City made. This is my dream, and I'll do anything to get it. And I'll turn Detroit into, like, Nazi Germany to do so. That's, you have Nazi flags, pretty much, of OCP. That's pretty much what they are, is updated Nazi flags, but with the OCP logo. I understand they're trying to, OCP stands for Oppressive Capitalist Pigs. And I get that, but I just don't think that the old man was like that. Maybe he was putting on a show in the first movie, but it was just a really, really drastic shift in character. Now, that could have been retooled with the same character as the first movie. It would have had continuity, because as it is, it's a completely different character in RoboCop 2. Now, it would have been interesting to see if Johnson was now the guy who's trying to usurp OCP and trying to, that would be interesting to see. I don't know, but I think that might be interesting to see that actor, the guy who plays Johnson, who's this yes man, to become this, Dick Jones like character for the film. That would have been interesting. And then you would still have the benevolent old man, but then you have his next right hand man just being just about as much of a dick as Dick Jones was. That might have been interesting, an interesting dynamic to say the least. But instead you have Dr. Fax, who is played by, I believe that's Belinda Bauer, who plays Dr. Fax. I believe so. No, Belinda Bauer, no, that's RoboCop's wife, I think. That's Murphy's wife. No, that's right, Dr. Juliet Fax, that's who that is. Nope, got it wrong. I got it right first, but then I corrected myself, and I was wrong. Yeah, Belinda Bauer is Dr. Fax. That's a character from Frank Miller's script. Now, Dr. Fax, I didn't mind. Go away! You are obsolete! Kane, would you care to step outside? Would you like to step outside? which of course reminded me a lot of Superman 2. I mean, that's cool. I mean, Superman 2 is great. It's a great sequel to RoboCop 2. Now, Superman had that badass moment where he's like, you know, Zod, would you care to step outside? Like, oh, it's on now. And here it's like, Kane, would you like to step outside? Let's step outside or something like that. That's really fun. Anyway, so Dana Harley, old man. I don't like the interpretation of the character in this movie. Belinda Bauer's Dr. Fact. She's more of the kind of Dick Jones type character now, I guess, because she's willing to do whatever she can to get to the top. Which means putting a convicted murderer, a killer, a drug addict into a machine, putting his brain into the chassis of like a super deaf machine. So she's willing to do whatever it takes. And then you have Tom Noonan, who plays Kane. Tom Noonan I remember the most as the Frankenstein monster in the Monster Squad. And when I first saw the film, I wasn't really impressed by Tom Noonan as Kane. I thought he was really not intimidating at all, because he's like a hippie or whatever. And, you know, it was just Jesus freak or whatever. And even in my last review I did of this film, I felt that way. But I watched it again, and you know what? I felt completely differently this time around. Because he's batshit crazy. He's even more, you could make an argument he's even more insane than Clarence Boddicker in the first movie. This guy is genuinely certified grade 8 nutball. He's got Elvis's corpse at his hideout and a picture of Oliver North on the wall. This guy's loony. He's a drug addict. The scene where he tortures Duffy and, you know, has a doctor cut him in two with a scalpel because, you know, he just wanted to scare him. And I love that scene. It's like, I thought you said you were just going to scare him. He looks scared, doesn't he? You know, they're like, holy shit. Like, this guy and that one scene alone, that's what sold it for me. I'm like, okay, I'm intimidated by him now. He's like, he thinks he's God. He also, you know, he's, you know, he tortures poor people just to make a point. You know, if you cross him, you're gonna get fucked. You're gonna get fucked up. That's what happened with Duffy, and that's what happened with the girl too when he became Robo-Kane, and she's like trying to all put her moves on him, but then he realizes that I can't, you know, you can't do, you're just faking this because you just want to live. Fuck this, I'm gonna break your neck anyway. So, you know, he even fucks up the kid Hobb, who tries to take his empire away from him. So, you know, Kane's a pretty intimidating presence, and Tom Noonan did a great job. Gabriel Damon as Hobb. I like him. I like the performance. I like the drug-dealing kid. It's different. It's got balls. It's not PC. This whole movie is not PC. This whole movie takes your censorship and your PC values and blows them to fucking pieces like Kinney, you know, like the Ed 209 did to Kinney in the first RoboCop movie. Ed 209 turns that guy into fucking hamburger. This movie turns PC values, politically correctness into fucking shreds. And I love that. It is so great to see that. And to see that so many critics missed that is unbelievable to me. You're not supposed to take the character of Hobbs seriously. You're not supposed to take the scenes with the kids robbing the stores, you know, with lethal force seriously. You know what I mean? You're supposed to take those scenes like the scene where the kid spray paints "Kick Me" on RoboCop's back after he got reprogrammed and tells him to go fuck a refrigerator. That's what you're supposed to look at those scenes as. In my opinion anyway, those scenes with kids doing violent acts in this movie is just a way for the film to say fuck you to your PC values. They're ridiculous, they're over the top, and even more so, it's even more evident in all the new directives that RoboCop gets, you know, uploaded into his brain. He gets his systems messed up and put all these stupid new directives, like, you know, where you have him say scenes like, you know, where he says lines like, bad language leads to bad feelings. That's the whole point. It's like, fuck you and your PC bullshit. Even telling the censors in Hollywood to go fuck themselves. Such a subversive, really clever script at certain points anyway. There's some points where it doesn't work as well. But when it comes to these scenes, it does a great job. I love these scenes where it says, fuck you, PC values. I'm not adhering to your bullshit. I'm doing my own thing. I'm being the renegade. I'm being the kid gone wild. So, yeah, I love that. Though I love those aspects of this movie. And it just adds to the those are the satirical moments in this. They're right there in plain sight. Shoots the fucking guy because he's smoking. Thank you for not smoking. That was actually used in front of films in theaters to, you know, not really necessarily promote the movie, even in some ways, but it was used to tell people in the audience to not smoke. That's impressive. They should be using that again, right now. They should be using that, make a reshoot of that with RoboCop shooting around somebody's fucking head for using their cell phone in the movie theater. I think some people might get the point and be like, oh shit, I better not be texting in the theater because I could get my ass shot. So, but anyway, yeah, there's so many moments like that in this movie that I think are just, you know, taking PC element, you know, the politically correctness and fucking up the ass and saying, get the fuck out of here, you're ridiculous. And the scene with the boardroom, you know, basically Dr. Fax is asking them what you think they think RoboCop should do, you know, what kind of new directives do you think he should have? And then they go on with over-the-top stupid shit like he should be more sensitive to environmental issues. That's perfect. It's perfect. And the whole idea with the kids, it's like, it just has balls. You will never see a film like this again. You will never see a movie, and I count Slumdog Millionaire or whatever. You're never going to see a film produced in Hollywood. The Slumdog Millionaire, I think, was an independent movie. And so was City of God. I think it's called City of God. And there's another, I don't know. Yeah, City of God. Those are independent movies. Hollywood finance produced movie, you're not going to see a movie where a kid is strangling people with a garrote wire and shooting people with a submachine gun and going, you know, automatic machine gun. I don't know if it's a submachine gun or not, but it's an Uzi. Shooting people with an Uzi, trying to run a drug empire. You're not going to see that in a movie nowadays because Hollywood has lost its fucking balls. This movie has balls. This movie is like big. This movie has big, heavy, swinging balls. Because it says, fuck that. We're going to have a kid be a drug dealer in this. We're going to have a kid try to choke out Ann Lewis in one scene. We're going to have a kid who's selling drugs. We're going to have kids who do crimes. We're going to have kids who disrespect RoboCop, kick me on his back, and go tell him to fuck a refrigerator. Yes, we're going to have kids swear. Yes, we're going to have kids do violent things. If you can't handle it, then fuck off. That's the whole point. So, for critics who are pissed at that, wow. I mean, in my opinion, to get mad at a movie and to criticize a film and to demean a movie and to condemn a film because it has sequences in it that for some reason do not appeal to your personal PC, whatever, personal value system is not a valid criticism. I'm speaking to you, Roger Ebert. I love you. You know, may you rest in peace or inspiration to reviewers like me all over the world and on YouTube. But when he keeps getting on his soapbox in his reviews about whenever there's kids in danger, whenever there's this movie where a kid is doing something that kids shouldn't do, it pushes his button and he says, fuck, you know, basically says, screw the movie. Because it had the gall to have these kids doing bad things. Which, newsflash, like I said earlier, kids do bad things like they do in this movie. It's not out of the question. So, yeah. Sure, I've put my personal values into movies before, but ultimately that's not the main reason why I don't like a movie like Serbian Film. It's a movie about fucking, you know, baby rape. That's a value issue. That's really, it crosses the fucking line. But also, it doesn't have much of a story. There's not a reason to care about anybody in that movie. It's just a fucking shock after shock after shock with no story, with no character development, with no nothing. So all you're left with the Serbian film is baby rape and other shocking scenes, and you're not left with anything else other than that. That's why I think that's a terrible movie. Not only because it has an audacity of baby rape in it, but because it's a shitty executed movie. There's barely no plot, and it's pretty much just no character development, and just it's just disgusting scene after disgusting scene. RoboCop 2 is not like that. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end, there's a storyline. RoboCop wants to stop Nuke. You know, he ends up getting, you know, tries to go up against the bad guys. He gets dismantled. You know, he gets stripped. It deals with some emotional elements, some human moments. I don't get why people say that he refers to himself as RoboCop. Because in the beginning of the movie, there's that scene where he says, "I'm Alex Murphy. I'm human. No, you're a machine. No, I'm Alex Murphy." It's like, you cannot do this. There's a glitch in your programming. You're a machine. Like right from the beginning, it does that. He doesn't say he only says that he's RoboCop to that Kevin Nealon look-alike motherfucker from OCP, so they can get off his back. He only tells his wife in that one powerful, emotionally, you know, charged scene where he tells his wife that they made this to honor him. Your husband is dead. He says that to her. He lies to her. You can tell he lied to her. After she leaves the building, he zooms in with his RoboVision to see her reaction. And she says, "I don't understand. I don't get it." And she, you know, goes into her car and leaves. He lied to her. This is not true. When he says, "I am RoboCop, I am this, I am that, I'm not a man, I'm a machine," when he tells his wife that he's dead, he's not truthful about it. You gotta read between the lines. This is not telling the truth. If he was, why would he go through all the trouble to look at her one last time before she leaves? He lied to her for a reason, because he knew that he didn't want to put her through the pain and torture of knowing that the man that she loved was killed and then brought back to life and turned into some Frankenstein-like creation of, you know, nuts, bolts, and titanium steel and a human brain. He didn't want to put his wife and his kids through that. So he did what he thought was best for him and for his family. He let them move on so he can move on, so they can move on as well. He can protect them. Like RoboCop the series did a great job with this. The family was reintroduced in the series, and his new partner's trying to, you can tell them now, Murphy, who you are. He's like, "No, I can't tell them, but I can protect them." See, that's the whole thing. He can still, you know, keep an eye on them. Yeah, he does the whole stalking thing or whatever in the beginning of RoboCop 2. But he can still keep an eye on them and protect them. Just like, you know, he's protecting everyone else in the city. But what is he going to do? Walk in the door and have dinner with his fucking family? I don't understand this criticism with the whole idea that there needed to be more than what you had in the first movie. His family moved on at the end and in the first movie. So now he's meeting with he tells his wife that he's dead. That's an interesting scene. It's a really powerful scene. I tear up every time I see that scene. Peter Weller's acting in that scene is phenomenal. And so he tells his wife that he's dead because he knows that he cannot possibly put her through that. And his family through this. He did the right thing. This isn't like the fantasy fucking island fucking ending of the RoboCop remake where families together, happily ever after, like nothing ever fucking happened. Here it's, you know, like that scene where the Kevin Nealon guy, he says, "What, you think you can possibly love her? You can't love her." I mean, he can't. What is he gonna do? So, you know, he realizes that it's the best option to let her know that her husband is dead. Because her husband, no matter how much he might want it, and she might want it to be that way, the husband that she married, the man that she married, the man who was a father to her children, is not going to come walking back into her door in flesh and blood. It's not going to happen. What will come walking into the door is a machine. With a human soul, with a human brain, but ultimately still a machine. And he knows that he can't do that. Like, what is he gonna do? Take his kid on to a Ferris wheel or something? What is he gonna do? Go on a romantic date with his wife? What is it? They're gonna make out? I don't understand what people were expecting from this storyline with Murphy and his family. It makes the most sense for him to move on and to continue to move on. Still remember them, still care for them, and if anybody tries to fuck with them, he's gonna come in and save the day. But as it is, he's not going to play baseball with his son or anything like that. Come on. So anyway, I mean, I just don't understand that criticism. That there's people wanted more of that. Like, what else could you get? And they're also going to, and the people say there's not a lot of humanity in RoboCop 2. Why does it end with him saying we're only human? There's also a scene, there's multiple scenes where he says he's human. In the beginning of the movie, he's just lying to OCP and lies to his wife. There's a scene where he's getting reprogrammed by Dr. Fax. You know, this stupid program, she's going to put all these dumb directives in his head. And he's resisting. And he's saying, who are you? I'm Officer Alex J. Murphy, Detroit Police Department. No, you're not. You know, so you have humanity in that. And there were scenes that were cut out. There was a scene where he visited his own grave that was cut out because they thought the gravestone looked too fake. There's a scene where he notices the female anatomy again in one scene. Sees some woman naked in a shower and is having some thoughts, you know, probably some sexual thoughts. He's still a man after all, but he doesn't have his manhood, so he can't do anything with that. That's tragic as well. He can't experience sexual intercourse. Doesn't have a dick, doesn't have anything to do anything with it. So that's an interesting point. Cut out of the movie. So there were more emotional moments. There were more moments in the film that were dramatic, that were cut out of the film. So it's kind of hard when you know that about the movie. When I found that about the film, then I'm like, okay, it did attempt. It was trying to be more emotional and have more dramatic moments. But they either got cut out or it didn't work as well. And I mean, the first movie is one of the best examples of a movie that was able to accurately balance all these different elements into one movie. And RoboCop 2 didn't live up to that. Because it didn't try to do that. Because it knew that if Verhoeven was not behind the camera, that it was not going to be that good. It was going to be as, you know, multifaceted and as perfectly seamless as the first film was. So they went with a more straightforward action movie. And in my opinion, in terms of action, this is the best film in the franchise. The best movie in the franchise is RoboCop 2 in terms of action, in my opinion. But it's not the best film. The first film undoubtedly is still the best movie in the franchise. This movie has its flaws, but it's still an entertaining, fun action movie. There's also still some really good scenes of dramatic weight and emotional power. The scene where RoboCop gets dismantled. He's getting stripped. Man, I feel bad for him. I felt like the same way I felt for him in the scenes where he's getting stripped by Hobb and Kane and his men, as I did when Murphy was gunned down by Clarence Boddicker and his gang in the first film. It's honestly even a little bit more tragic because now you think that would never happen again. That's probably the worst thing that could ever happen to Murphy, is to be torn apart again. But this time as RoboCop, he would probably think that would never happen again, but it happened again. And to see the scenes where he's stripped and they're keeping him on life support and OCP doesn't want to do anything, and he's just in pain and, you know, just a bunch of pieces, you know. Great makeup effects too, and great practical effects in those scenes where RoboCop's, you know, stripped and he's all like, but you really feel for him. You feel for him the whole scene where they're tearing him apart. It's like, oh my god, it's torture. Again, he's getting tortured, but this time as RoboCop, as the titanium, you know, super cop. He's still vulnerable. I like the fact that it added vulnerability to RoboCop in RoboCop 2. It said he's still vulnerable. He's RoboCop, but he can still get torn apart. He can still get hurt. And then he gets tortured again because OCP fucks with him, puts all these stupid directives in his head, makes him a fucking joke. You know, reading Miranda rights to a dead guy. So, you know, so he gets tortured again, and he don't know when he gets tortured once, torn apart, put back together with all these stupid directives in his head. You know, saying things to Lewis like, you know, you look beautiful today, Anne. You know, Anne. You know, and the stuff where he's all like, the moon is lovely today, isn't it, Anne? Murphy, it's still daylight outside. So, you know, and Peter Weller did a great job of those scenes. Sold those scenes great with comedic, deadpan delivery. And also showed with his face, with the lower half of his face, you know, realizing that something is wrong. Like the scene where after he reads Miranda rights to the dead guy, he's like, I don't feel right. You know, it's just this whole fact that something doesn't feel right. And they're saying the only way that you're going to get rid of these directives is if maybe, you know, short-circuit himself, or to commit suicide. It might be suicide. So then he just pops right up out of his chair, walks over to a transformer, fucking electrocutes himself. That's a human choice. That he was willing to commit suicide, to give up his memories, to give up his everything, to get rid of these stupid directives in his head. And also there's another criticism people have about the movie that, well, he's not Murphy anymore. He's RoboCop, and he's still a cop for Omni Consumer Products. That would, well, I don't see. For me personally, I don't see how that's a problem, because it should be expected. In my opinion, at the end of the first movie, all he gained back was his humanity. He didn't gain back his control. He didn't gain back control of his own life. At the end of RoboCop, he was still property of Omni Consumer Products. It's not like he wasn't property of OCP. He had to get old man to fire Dick Jones before he could shoot him out the window. So in the beginning of RoboCop 2, it makes sense. They just put him in the chair, they retool him, they do whatever with his fucking programming. They can do whatever the hell they want with him still, because he is still property of OCP. That in itself is even more tragic. To have your free will back, to have your not really have your free will, to have your humanity back, but to not have your free will. And that's what carried over into RoboCop 2. That he doesn't have his free will. At the end of the day, he's still property of Omni Consumer Products, and they could throw him away in the fucking trash, like when he was dismantled. In that one scene, we can just throw him away. And they could. That's, you know, I don't see how that's a problem. It should be expected that he would go back to being OCP's police officer for, you know, the future of law enforcement, going around Detroit taking care of crime. It should be expected for that to happen, because that's honestly what he is. He's still OCP's product. At the end of the day, he may be Murphy, he may have his humanity back, but he's still property of Omni Consumer Products, and they can do whatever they want with him. So if his directives are back, they're back, because they just put him back in his head. It's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So, because Omni Consumer Products do whatever the hell they want with RoboCop. Doesn't matter if he's got his humanity back or not. So, anyway, so that's why I never had a problem with that. What was he going to be, a vigilante? You know, that might be interesting to do maybe a third movie or something. And it really did set it up well, that it could have been a vigilante sort of angle in the third film, but they fucked it up. But here, I don't have a problem with him being OCP's product again, because it's what he is. So, I never had an issue with that part of the story. Now, when it comes to the action, bang up, fantastic, awesome action. The intro that RoboCop gets in this movie is fucking badass, and these fuckers are doing all this crime and shit and fucking up things all over Detroit. And, you know, blowing stores up, and they're going to this gun store and steal all these weapons, and they see one police car going in. I'm like, what, that's a cop? I thought they were on strike. And then they shoot the fucking police car with the bazooka, not once but twice. Flips on its back, and then they shoot it full of bullet holes. And then you see awesome shot. This is one of the most badass shots in the franchise, in my opinion. The door just slowly swings open. It's on fucking fire, and then one metallic foot just goes boom. It's got weight to it. It's got power. You hear the foot. It goes, slams on the ground. RoboCop comes out, and he's all like, "Peace, officer. Think it over, creep." Shoots the guy in the fucking chest. Badass. The only thing that scene was missing was Pedro Portos's score. But damn, that's how you fucking do an entrance, man. Like if Jim Carrey is the Riddler in Batman Forever. Now that's how you make an entrance. This is exactly how you make an entrance, man. Fucking like a fucking stone cold badass. Awesome. And then he goes into the drug bust. This guy's looking through the door. He punches a hole through the door, punches the guy out, goes into the drug bust, goes into the the place where the nuke is being made. And he's looking for nuke. You know, it's where is the nuke? Where is it? Where is it made? And there's a scene where a guy has got a fucking baby at gunpoint. And people have problems with this. Like, that's not right. Yeah, it's not right. Because, like I said, this movie says, fuck you and your PC bullshit. Because we're going to take ballsy as fuck chances. And we don't give a fuck. And that means attempting to shoot babies in the fucking head. This guy's a drug addict. He's probably fucked in the head. He doesn't care. You think there aren't drug addicts who would take a baby hostage to get some more drugs? They would. They would. They totally would. So anyway, he's got a gun on a baby's head, and RoboCop does this awesome trick shot, bounces off a bunch of walls, shoots the guy in the head, and Lewis saves the baby. So the baby doesn't get shot. So, there's too much that they were even thinking about shooting that poor baby, because you're all in your politically correct world, and this movie is shattering it for you, and you don't like it, and you feel uncomfortable. Well, sorry, too bad. That's what I love about this movie. It's like, fuck your political correct bullshit. We're gonna just do whatever the fuck we want. And we don't give a fuck what the consequences are. Or if you're gonna give us a bad grade. So anyway, that's a cool sequence. Shoots the fuckers, they shoot him, it shoots this fucking guy. Blood squibs again, which we can't do anymore for some reason. Then, other action sequences are great too, like when RoboCop, after he gets put back together, gets rid of all the stupid directives in his head, drives in on the motorcycle, and plays chicken with a Harley Davidson with Kane and his band. Badass scene, great action sequence, great, little chase scene. The final showdown between RoboCop and RoboCane, awesome. Fantastic stop-motion effects by Phil Tippett. I think still are, in my opinion, are the best-looking stop-motion effects I've ever seen in a movie. And RoboCane is a great design. Funny stuff involving RoboCane, the other RoboCop 2, the failed RoboCop 2 prototypes, the suicide scenes. Funny stuff. We're introducing RoboCop 2. Committing suicide, shooting themselves in the fucking head. That's dark humor. Fun satire, commercials, Magnavolt, Sunblock 5000, I think. Or 50,000 or something, where it's like, they said that we couldn't go and sunbathe in the California sun anymore because there's no ozone layer. But when there's Sunblock 5000, we can be out in it as long as we want. The guy, the food and drug administrator guy on the news video break segment in the beginning, he's like talking about how bad Nuke is, and he gets fucking gunned down by somebody, cold blood, while he's talking to how bad Nuke is. And you have a little footage of an Ed 209 being put out in the public, trying to direct traffic and fucking up. This is fun stuff. The police are still going on strike. The stuff where RoboCop gets reprogrammed, says stupid lines, the bad language leads to bad feelings. Totally turning all this political correct BS on its head and showing it for what it is. How ridiculous it is. And show pretty well how ridiculous. These are the directives that they put in his head. Restrain hostile feelings. Promote positive attitude. Suppress aggressiveness. Promote pro-social values. Avoid destructive behavior. Be accessible. Participate in group activities. Avoid interpersonal conflicts. Avoid premature value judgments. Pool opinions before expressing yourself. Discourage feelings of negativity and hostility. If you haven't got anything nice to say, don't talk. Don't rush traffic lights. Don't run through puddles and splash pedestrians or other cars. Don't say that you're always prompt when you are not. Don't be oversensitive to the hostility and negativity of others. Don't walk across a Don't walk across a ballroom floor swinging your arms. Encourage awareness. Discourage harsh language. Commend sincere efforts. Talk things out. Avoid Orion meetings. Smile. Keep an open mind. Encourage participation. Avoid stereotyping. And seek nonviolent solutions. So, come on. That's some funny ass shit. So yeah, I mean, that's you know, fun moments there. The climax is awesome. I love it. It's badass. Great action. You know, I like the whole scene where he's getting ready to, lift Robo Kane and send him falling down to the, off the skyscraper. And he's, I like the way that Weller delivers the line, dead or alive, you're coming with me. Like he's like, he's just really determined. And it's great seeing it. It's so much fun seeing these two robots clash. It's awesome. It's a Clash of the Titans. It's badass. When I first saw this movie on TV, yeah, I saw it on public TV for the first time. It's one of the first time I saw this movie, censored. But I saw that in battle. I'm like, this is so awesome. This is so fucking cool, man. This is so rad. And I was just like, I've been missing out on this movie. I heard so many bad things about this movie. This isn't that bad. And yeah, as you can see, I'm not going like super in depth on the synopsis. I don't think I have to. RoboCop 2 is RoboCop 2. He's trying to stop Nuke, this drug. He goes in and, finds that there's a dirty cop. You're a dirty cop. And, Duffy, who then gets tortured later by Kane. He's trying to stop, Kane and his flow of Nuke. He ends up getting caught in a trap, gets dismantled. Oh my god, they stripped him. Then he gets put back together, and he basically is flooded with all these stupid directives, cringe-inducing scenes where he's acting stupid, but it's funny because that's the point. It's being over the top and silly, showing how stupid politically correct BS is. And then he gets him out of his brain, gets Lewis and a bunch of cops to get off strike and go after Kane. Like, Murphy, what's bugging you? Kane. And then he goes in and they go after Kane. He takes his ass out with a cool car chase, plays chicken with a fucking Harley Davidson, jumps off the motorcycle, smashes into the windshield, makes a fucking van crash, goes into the warehouse before that, fucks up Kane's bad henchman, shoots one guy in the fucking eye, goes right out the back of his fucking head. Then he goes in and, the final showdown with RoboCop and RoboCane. And it's like, no, you are obsolete! Awesome. It's great. And then he gets in the end of the movie, he jumps on the back of RoboCane, rips out his fucking brain, goodbye, smashes it on the fucking ground, and then Kane's CGI face freaks out, and the machine falls down on the ground, lifeless and dead. And then the old man gets away with it, and I like how the film shows that RoboCane is freaking out. The idea of a killer robot that's addicted to drugs is really brilliant. And then you have the scene where there's carnage, just absolute carnage in the scene where Kane is just attacking the city. He's like fucking blowing up ambulances, innocent people are getting shot and killed right and left, and then at the end of this, the OCP guys are like, oh, how are we gonna do a spin on this? Get the spin team on this one, Johnson. And it's like, I know what it is. We'll blame Dr. Fax, that stupid bitch. We'll blame Dr. Fax for everything. Good one. So yeah. And of course, you have also fun stuff with Detroit is actually going bankrupt, and it's crazy because Detroit really is bankrupt now, and they're trying to have a fundraiser, and the guy who plays the mayor is a lot of fun. This is bullshit, and we're gonna sue you asses, and he's a lot of fun. And then he, barely survives the first sequence of RoboCane, where he attacks Hobb into his deal, which is going to save Detroit. And Hobb, a scene where he dies. People didn't like the scene because I was too pulling your heartstrings. Like, what? What are you expecting to be RoboCop to be like, whatever, you're dead, you're still a criminal. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Like, really? Some critics were mad at that it had a scene where Murphy, the kid, realizes that he made a mistake, that dying sucks, and RoboCop feels sad. Why not? He's still a fucking kid. He's a asshole. Yeah, he broke the law, but he's still a kid. There's still a lot of time for him to possibly, reform himself and not be a drug-dealing dickhead anymore. It doesn't matter. Whenever you die that young, it's tragic. So, he felt for him. And it's not like they made you, like, I didn't think it was too over the top. I think if they intercut him sort of having memories of his son with the kid dying, that might have helped it a little bit. But yeah, that scene never really bothered me that much. I like Hobb. I thought Gabriel Damon did a great job. It was an interesting character. And, yeah, and Kane did a good job with Tom Noonan. The suit, I don't like the blue tint. Like, you could have toned that down a little bit, but that didn't really affect the film that much for me. It was just something that was kind of something I noticed. But overall, I love RoboCop 2. I think it's a great sequel. I think it's got great action. It's got great pacing. It's almost 2 hours. It's an hour and 56 minutes, but it goes by at a quick pace. I didn't really feel bored at any point. I think the scenes that were deleted for either they didn't look effective enough, or they were deleted because they would have just made the movie longer. Like a scene where earlier, before Dr. Fax even decides to put Kane in the body of the machine, she meets with him, and they have a meeting or whatever beforehand, and he gets in a face-off with some RoboCop statue or something. That was cut out. The grave sequence I mentioned, the sequence of the RoboCop looking in the shower, was cut out. There's a few other scenes here and there that weren't that important to the film, like showing Kane act it's more scenes of Kane acting like a hippie. But any of the scenes that I think should have been put back in, the grave scene and the scene where he's looking around in the locker room, I think that should have been kept in there. But other scenes, okay, we could do without. But as it is, I still think it's a solid film. It's an excellent movie. I think it's a great film in its own right, a good sequel. It leaves you feeling, on a high at the end. It's exciting. It's fun. It's got a cool idea. RoboCane is awesome. RoboCane is one of the most underrated film creations, in my opinion. More people should be talking about RoboCane. RoboCane is badass. And the showdown between RoboCop and RoboCane was worth the wait. And Peter Weller is great and will always be RoboCop. Nobody else has even come close to being as good as Peter Weller. He returned and did a great job once again with this role. And Stone Cold badass. Did great with emotional scenes when he had to show emotion, and scenes that needed to make you feel something. They made you feel something. Nancy Allen was good for a little bit that she was in the movie. The score, like I said, not that great. Could be better. And the character of the old man was really smarmy and evil, just because they needed him to be that way in the sequel, and it didn't make any sense considering from the way the character was in the first movie. But satire's there, humor's there, action is there, there are human elements, there are emotion in this movie. You just have to look a little bit harder. And yeah, I think it's a fucking awesome movie. So I really don't know what to say about RoboCop 2. It's rated at 5 stars. I'm going to give it 4.5. And the half is only for little things. The score, the character of the old man, the drama could have been a little bit extra added. The deleted scenes put back in the film could have helped that. And like I said, yeah, maybe the look of RoboCop, the blue look, could have been toned down a little bit. But other than that, don't have very many issues with this movie. I think it's an excellent movie. It's a great sequel. And I don't understand why it gets so much crap. I don't get it. I don't think I will ever get it. But anyway, folks, thanks for watching my review of RoboCop 2, and I'll see you guys later. See ya.